This park, this land, and this area. A park for more thrills and fun, while the almost top-tier parks in the Cedar Fair chain. California's Great America. The coasters they have. Gold Striker, a GCI Wind coaster, which came after a huge coaster drought after Psychomouths in 2001. Flight Deck, a B&M invert, the first B&M invert for the Paramount parks. Patriot, originally a B&M stand-up coaster in Vortex, then converted into a floorless. And finally, the recent coaster that came to the park, Railblazer, the first of its kind, an RMC Raptor. This park attracts enthusiasts to come all over the world. This park is a hit with the general public, and with a lot of people that come to this park have speculated this rumor. Where is California's Great America's B&M Hyper coaster? They have a plan for this coaster model coming into their lineup for years. They are overdue for this type of coaster, and it has been years since they got their last coaster. In this video, we will discuss on what may have happened to CGA's B&M rumored Hyper coaster and if it's still in the plan to add one. Where will it go, and when will it come? Stay tuned in this video and you'll find out. Hey guys, Pennsylvania Coaster Riders here, and I will be predicting on what may have happened to CGA's rumored B&M Hyper coaster. It was hard to think on what may have happened, to find a good location for this, and the year it'll come, and if it will be the next roller coaster in the next couple years. Also stay tuned for a couple of locations on where they could possibly put the B&M Hyper for their next coaster project, and then the year for the B&M Hyper that will come. If you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and comment down saying that you subscribed, and we'll try our best to respond to your comment. Now let's get back to what may have happened to the B&M Hyper coaster. Now, before we start, let's go back to the 2017 season. That's when the B&M stand-up coaster was converted into a floorless Patriot. Just kidding, that is when Cedar Fair rumored 4 new roller coasters in 4 Cedar Fair parks. 2 coasters were for 2 wooden coaster conversions into RMCs. I'm pretty sure you have thought of it. It was Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point and Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. The other 2 coasters were rumored to come. They said they were working with a manufacturer they've worked with in the past, and one they've never worked with in the past. Now a lot of people thought 2018 was going to be CGA's year for the B&M Hyper coaster, which was not, sadly. Instead of a B&M Hyper, they got RMC's new single rail coaster concept, the RMC Raptor Railblazer, an RMC type of coaster designed for smaller parks, which replaced Invertigo and the other coaster that was a Grosslauer Infinity coaster hang time for Knott's Berry Farm in 2018. And since CGA has a 20-year plan, and it says the B&M Hyper will be a 210-foot tall structure and it will go across the park, and permits were filed for this coaster in 2017 for this coaster. And what happened? Still no B&M Hyper coaster at the park. Now, what I think happened was when CGA was planning the next roller coaster after Railblazer, they were aiming for a 2020 opening of a B&M Hyper coaster, but then decided to push it a couple years after 2020 because they heard about coronavirus since 2018. Just kidding. They may have made this last-minute decision to do a water park expansion to their water park. There were a couple of attractions removed for what some thought it was the land for the Hyper, but instead it was for the water park. Boomerang Bay, which was turned into South Bay Shores for the 2020 season, that didn't happen because CGA was closed for all of 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, and their water park attraction was set for 2021. And some thought the B&M could come in 2021, but when all this crap happened, they may have pushed it to a couple years after 2021, like the years 2022 or 2023 or 2024 for the B&M Hyper coaster. If this happens, then it would almost be 5 to 6 years after Railblazer. Another coaster drought. Or many may have speculated that the project was put on hold due to the water park expansion for 2020. What do you think caused this to happen? Another reason why it might have been put on hold is that CGA's sister park Kings Island added a B&M Giga coaster in their lineup, and that may have supposed to be the CGA Hyper coaster. I think what happened when Cedar Fair was working on this, they have decided last second that they wanted to open a new themed section in California's Great America to attract guests for the future. and make California's Great America almost a Cedar Point in the West. But they wanted to try in one of their bigger, better Cedar Fair parks in a chain to see what would happen if they did this. So what they did is when Firehawk at Kings Island got the axe, California's Great America decided that they should give up their B&M Hypercoaster at Kings Island to try out in their new themed area in the park, which is Area 72, with a brand new B&M Hyper, which is a Giga, just kidding, in that spot in the coaster, with some good theming and other things. And since the late opening of the park, the attraction at Kings Island did open, and it was a huge success for the park and the chain, but CGA did not open for the park that year. That's what I think happened when with Cedar Fair's CGA B&M Hypercoaster. It went to Kings Island as a Giga Coaster. Another thing that may have happened when they put the B&M Hypercoaster on hold is when Hershey Park rumored a new B&M Hyper and a new expansion to the front entrance Chocolate Town, a new themed area. CGA decided to give their 210-foot Hyper, the 2020 version, to Hershey to try out in their new themed area, and CGA wanted to see what would happen if they did this. And what happened? Another huge success to the park due to the COVID crap we were dealing with. If you heard me say a 210-foot Hypercoaster to CGA, that went to Hershey Park as Candemonium. That may have been the CGA's B&M Hypercoaster, because Candemonium is a 210-foot tall Hypercoaster and it was themed area of the park, so that's what may have happened to the Hypercoaster. And I know some will say this in the comments. I know that Hershey Park is not a Cedar Fair park, and that's what I speculated happened with the B&M Hypercoaster. It went to Hershey for CGA to try out for the future. So, since we discussed on what may have happened to the original plans of California's Great America's B&M Hyper, or other things that may have contributed to the Hypercoaster plans, now, with no further ado, let's get into some locations that I can possibly see the B&M Hyper will get built in. The first location that I could possibly see the 210-foot B&M Hypercoaster will go is behind the Grizzly roller coaster. The aero looping Demon getting removed because it will have reached the end of its service life. The water ride Whitewater Falls will be removed, and Berserker 2. If that happens, there will be enough land that the park can use to build a potential 210-foot B&M Hypercoaster. The whiteout is the land the Hypercoaster will be in. The layout could possibly look like this with the station in that airtime hill on Demon. The lift is in blue. The drop is in red after the blue, and the red is some airtime hills, turnarounds, and the purple is the first mid-course break, and the green is a couple of airtime hills, and the last purple is the final mid-course break. Something that is similar to what Candemonium has as its layout at Hershey Park. The second location that I could possibly see the 210-foot B&M Hypercoaster will be near the B&M Invert Flight Deck. The water ride Rip Roaring Rapids could possibly get the axe so that the 200-foot tall B&M Hyper could fit in it. If they remove this water ride, it will give a lot of room that can easily house a B&M Hypercoaster. The whiteout is the land that the Hypercoaster will use. And the setup of this coaster will be the station will be in the loading part of Rip Roaring Rapids. The station is in black, and the blue will be the lift hill. The red after the blue is the drop of the roller coaster with a couple of turns in it, and the purple is the brake run. So this layout is not similar to what Orion has or Candemonium has as the Hypercoaster for CGA. And finally, after showing on where the California's Great America B&M Hypercoaster could possibly be going in, now let's find a year that the Hypercoaster could come. I am predicting around the year 2023 or 2024 for the B&M Hypercoaster. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, I will not say the year 2021 since we're getting South Bay Shores that year. I don't think 2022 will be the year of the Hypercoaster since after the pandemic could be done by 2022. The year 2022 will be a year to catch up on. I could say 2023 will be the same with 2022, maybe add a new thrill ride in 2023. Then by 2024, California's Great America will be getting the long-awaited B&M Hypercoaster and a new themed section in the park that they've wanted for a long time. I think 2024 will be the year that they will finally get the Hypercoaster they've been wanting for a long time, and it will be put behind the Grizzly roller coaster It'll be in the spot of the Demon, Whitewater Falls, and Berserker, and it'll be a huge success for California's Great America and its future years to come. This is my idea on what may have happened to California's Great America's B&M Hypercoaster. Now, I want to hear from you. Say in the comments on what do you think may have happened to California's Great America's B&M Hyper. Now, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for more content for the future. See you in the next video.